So I'm testing out a new setup for vlogging and podcasting, and so I thought I would give just some quick thoughts on the movie The Great Wall, which I finally saw for fucking reasons. I don't know, man. I feel like while it's fun to shit on a movie based on the trailer alone, and I'm super guilty of that. I do that all the time when it's time to pile on. It's like this movie sucks because of whitewashing and all that. I'm there. I'm with you. But it's not really fair. You kind of have to judge the entire film as itself. So like, I fall into that trap just like everybody else. But I figured if this movie was really shit, that I should judge it on the movie itself rather than just my initial impressions on the trailer. So I saw it and I was surprised because the two major complaints that a lot of Asian Americans had about this film were kind of unfounded. The first big complaint is that Matt Damon's character is another example of whitewashing, and that's just not true. The character that Matt Damon played was written to be like a European mercenary. I think Irish. I think his accent drifts in and out, but I think he's supposed to be Irish. So it's meant to be one of those films where you follow the viewpoint of an outsider looking into a new society to kind of get you acclimated to some new shit. So and then the other charge that a lot of us made against this film was that it was just another Hollywood example of the white savior complex, wherein a white person saves the day for a non-white society. In this case, the Chinese people. Like, white man comes in and saves China, which isn't really true. You can make a very strong argument that Matt Damon does not save the day in this film. He does not save China, which was really refreshing to see. I mean, there's like one very small specific plot. Well, fuck it, I'm spoiling this shit. Like, if Matt Damon didn't show up with the magnet, maybe it would have taken the nameless. Maybe it would have taken them a little bit longer to figure out that magnets can stop the creatures. But honestly, that information was already in their legends. Like, it was already in their textbooks and stuff about these monsters that had been there for years. So they could have figured that shit out. Matt Damon didn't need to be there to deliver the rock. So I don't know. I don't know why he was there other than to potentially sell movie tickets. But the box office proved that that was not the case. Like, having Matt Damon in the movie did not help it at the box office, either here or in China, which I figured it would do much better because the Chinese market seems to really like foreign white actors or non-Chinese actors, and that just didn't happen. They're like, nah, we've seen this kind of movie, and this one isn't so good. So what I think it boils down to is this movie just wasn't very good. It just wasn't that. The story wasn't compelling. Some of the action scenes and set pieces were really cool, like the fact that the army on the wall was color coded, so it was like a Super Sentai team. Like the people in red armor were the archers. The women in blue were the bungee jumping swan corps with their spears and poking at the monsters. Purple was something. I think they were like the ground fighting crew. The black ones were the bear corps or whatever. There was another color that didn't get much play. And while visually it was cool, I felt like I wanted to spend more time with the different divisions to see how they trained and stuff. But instead, we spent most of the time following Matt Damon along as he tried to find the black powder and steal it from the Chinese so he could become like the best mercenary, I guess. I don't know. I didn't quite understand why he was there. And then when the turn happens, when he grows from being a money hungry mercenary to like the altruistic hero willing to fight for for a cause instead of just for money, that turn didn't seem very believable. Like they built up his character to be kind of a cutthroat mercenary, in it for the money, fights for different flags, fights for whoever is going to pay him. And then all of a sudden he decides that he's going to stay and fight to save China. Because why? The only thing I could figure is that the general chick is pretty hot and he wants to stick around and be with her. But then they don't kiss at the end. So him like fiending for her doesn't quite make sense from a story perspective. And we don't see anything in his personality that would dictate that somewhere deep inside him he really wants to save people. That's just not the case. What we get from his character is that he's willing to kill anybody for money. Maybe if there were a couple of scenes of him in the past, like on a previous mission where he's about to like slay an entire family and he pulls back, or he stops his other mercenary compatriots from slaughtering an entire village. Maybe if we got something like that throughout the film, the turn from him being an asshole to like a hero type would have made a more smooth transition. We don't get any of that. So it just kind of like, it doesn't come out of left field, but it doesn't ring true to his character. And honestly, he's the least interesting person in this film. Like, if you're going to have a viewpoint character, make him interesting. Make us give a shit about him. We don't. At least I didn't. I wanted to learn more about the general, and I wanted to learn more about the specific corps that she was in charge of, like the different troops, how they trained. You know, like I wanted to know the differences between the purple dudes and the dudes in black. Like I wanted to know more about the weapons and the training that they got, and the reason why they sort of split their troops into very specific roles. Like that would have been interesting to me. But instead we just get like a brief overview and spend most of the time with Matt Damon. I'm just like, I don't care about him. I care more about the awesome shit that's going on around him. Oh, also I'm spoiling shit. So, you know what you're getting into. The creatures looked really cool. But there were only 3 types. There were the drones that came out, then there were the shield ones that surround the Queen Mother, and then there was the Queen Mother. And I thought that didn't quite make sense from a creature design perspective, because you have hordes and hordes of monsters coming up and, you know, attacking the wall and stuff. It just didn't make any sense that I thought there would have been more specialization, more differentiation between different versions. Like I thought there would be like shock troopers and then maybe like a trooper above that, and then, you know, the Queen's Guard and that kind of thing. But I also, the notion that if you take out the Queen, like thousands of other monsters are just gonna stop and not do anything and fall over, that didn't make any sense. I guess the closest insect we would have would be, you know, a bee colony. If the queen dies, the bees don't necessarily just stand there and die. They go off and do other stuff. Like I don't know. That shit annoyed me, but that's because I would have liked to see more of the creatures. Surprisingly, the monsters we saw the monsters like maybe 20 minutes into the film. I think it might have been they might have been more menacing and more strong if we saw them towards the end of the film, like maybe in the 3rd act. Like maybe, you know, the film is about, you know, Matt Damon coming in and being like, what are you talking about? These creatures, I don't see any creatures. I don't see any evidence of these creatures. And him shit talking the general the entire time. And then towards the end of the film, they show up and then he starts freaking out. Cause, you know, I don't know. There was a movie in here that could have been interesting, but this was not the movie. And there were some really cool parts that were kind of amazing. Like the Swan Corps, the women all in the blue armor bungee jumping and stabbing the creatures, you know, that was awesome. The Death Troopers, where they're being held on ropes and they're fighting down the side of the wall with their spears and their spiked shields. That was pretty cool. There are sections of the Great Wall that open up and reveal these scissor type blades that come out as the creatures are running up the wall and they're getting chopped in half. That shit was cool. Like there was some cool looking shit in this movie, but it all fell flat to me. And I feel like this is the type of movie that would appeal to somebody like me. Like I like sword fights. I like people in different colored armor. It's like a Super Sentai team on a grander scale. You know, it would have been cool if we saw, like, in the past, like, these 5 individuals came together and devised a strategy to take out the monsters, and that's why they devised this separated military with the 5 different levels. But we got none of that. None of this cool, interesting shit that we should have seen. So, I don't know, man. I feel like this movie was supposed to be meant for somebody like me. And they totally failed on the marketing. Like every trailer I saw, the more trailers I saw, the least interested I became in this movie. So clearly other people were not interested either. I don't know. There might have been an interesting idea in here somewhere. I just can't figure out. I can't figure out who this was for, how it got made, all that kind of stuff, and the theory that you need a big Hollywood star to make money with a movie just didn't ring true. Didn't happen. So, I don't know, if you're doing something else, like if you're grinding a MMO or something like that, or you're doing your homework, or you're folding origami, or you're drawing a comic, or like I was. You can put this on in the background. That's the type of movie this is. This is not a movie that you need to sit down and pay a lot of attention to, because the plot is, there is a plot, but nobody gives a shit. If you were to pay like real money to go see this in the theater, I'm very sorry for you, because it was a waste of a ticket. Maybe the visuals were really cool, but it just wasn't enough in there to hold my interest. And, you know, if I wasn't drawing, I would have turned this shit off. So there you go. The movie sucked, but not for the reasons that we anticipated. So I guess the message here is to see the shitty movie just in case it's not about whitewashing or white saviors, I guess. Anyway, all right, so that's all I got. Hopefully this new setup works out. I'm going to edit this all together. I recorded the video and the audio separately, so I'll see if I can match them together. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.